So we're going to continue with this theme of chesed that we were starting to discuss, because really you see that this week's parasha we're speaking about Sarai Menu. And even though Sarai Menu is passing away, the parasha is called Chayei Sarah. Really the life of Sarah, but in the first few sentences, Sarah passes away. Not only that, you see something very interesting. Aside from Yitro and Balak, that really, we don't consider them to be such tzaddikim. Yitro became a tzaddik after he converted, but you don't see anybody else getting a parasha. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't get a parasha. Yosef HaTzadik didn't get a parasha. Avraham Avinu didn't get a parasha. The father of Judaism. What? What? Noach, you're right. Noach got a parasha. He became, so you see Balak, but very rare do you see between Sadiq, Avraham. I would have given Avraham a parasha. Sarah got a whole parasha, Chayei Sarah, and her passing you see Chayei Sarah. Yeah, you don't even see that by Avraham Avinu. It's very interesting that really, who was Sarah? Who was Sarah in this whole picture of Avraham Avinu? There's a machloket whether, some people say Eshet Chayil Mimtza is really talking about Sarah. But there's a midrash that really, where does Eshet Chayil come from? Really was Shlomo who said it on Batsheva. But over here we're going to focus on, what I want to focus on is who was Sarah, and what did Sarah represent? And you know that one of the things that Sarah was the Gilgul of who? Sarah was the Gilgul of Chava. Now why does it make sense that Sarah should be a reincarnation of Chava? What did Chava do? And how did Sarah come to correct that? So it starts, Vayu Chayei Sarah 100 shana, ve-20 shana, ve-7 shanim, Shnei Chayei Sarah. So Chaya lived how many? 127 years. So very famous Rashi. Rashi says, Lechach nichtav shana bechol klal v'klal. Every point was written, 100 shana, ve-20 shana. It doesn't say, Vayu Chayei Sarah 120 shana. It says 100 shana, 100 years, 20 shana, ve-7 shanim. Why? Lomar lecha, huh? גם, אבל זה לא צריך להגיד שנה כל פעם. It doesn't have to say the year every time. Right, it says 100 שנה ו-20 שנה ו-7 שנים. Why? אומר לך שכל אחד נדרש לעצמו. What does it mean? Each part of her life was the saying, בת קוף כבת חטא לחטא. מה בת חטא לא חטא, אשר אינה בת עונשין, אף בת קוף בלא חטא. So very famous Rashi. Sarah at the age of 127 was like a woman under the age of 20, because until the age of 20 you don't get punished b'dei shamayim. So Sarah's whole life was perfection. Sarah's whole life lived a perfect life. She was a perfect tzaddiket. Now, why is it emphasizing this? Why is it emphasizing this? Why would you think Sarah wasn't a tzaddiket? Because what happens after Avraham Avinu comes down from the Akedah, who comes to him? The Yitzhara. He hears that Sarah passed away. It says, Vaylech Avram nispoda, Avram went. It says, the pasuk says, Hu bechevron beretz Knan ve'avro Avram lispod et Sarah ve'lifkota. Why does he come to Sarah ve'lifkota? Why is Avram now coming to Sarah? You know what the Yitzhara comes and tells him? Avraham Avinu, you killed your wife. Avram comes down from the Akedah, the Yitzhara comes and tells him, Avram, you killed her. Imagine. Why did he kill her? Because it says that when Sarah, she was asking, it says, by the way, the Midrash says that Vayishkem Avraham baboker, you know who got up with him? Sarah. She woke up with him in the morning. When Avraham went to the Akedah, it says Sarah woke up with him in the morning, and she liftauto, she walked with him in Yitzchak and the Naarim, she liftauto for the Akedah. She didn't know why they were going, but she woke up with him. Goes, where are you going? Goes, we're going to give a sacrifice to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who's the sacrifice? She doesn't ask. After a while, they come and they tell Sarah, the Yetzirah comes and tells Sarah, listen, you went to do Akedat Yitzchak. You went to get rid of Yitzchak. So Sarah, what does it mean, Kiryat Arba? What was she doing in Kiryat Arba? It says Sarah died where? Kiryat Arba. Right? So she went to ask Sheshai, Talmai, Vachai, the four giants, where is he? Can you see them? You guys can see far. Tell me what's going on. So they tell, we see an old man walking about to slaughter a younger man. At that moment, Parcha Nishmata. Her soul departed her. Now, what would you think? Why did her soul depart her? Because I'm about to lose my son. So my soul departs me. Oh, maybe she died before her time. And therefore she's not a tzedekah. Because if somebody dies before their time, unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu does you a favor, like by Avraham, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shortened the life of Avraham, that he shouldn't see Esav going out to do bad, unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu shortens your life for some reason that he's protecting you over here, the Yetzer is telling you killed her. Imagine you come from the biggest test. Now I know that you're a person who has fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Comes the Yetzer and tells him you killed your wife. What does Avraham do? It's another test, by the way. Some of the commentators says that one of the tests of Avraham was that the fact that he went down after the Kedat Yitzchak was what? We said this many times in our Shirim. Now that he heard that Sarah passed away, what's he going to do? Oh, I shouldn't have done it. Mata, he regrets the mitzvah. It's like I have a barber. My barber tells me, you know what? I tell him, every day you got to put on tefillin. He tells me, Tomer, every time I put on tefillin, I come downstairs, I get a ticket. I go here. Every time I put on tefillin, something happens to me. He goes, I'm telling you, I'm not going to do it anymore. And he does it and something happens to him. His challenge is what? That the Yetzer Hara lets him do the mitzvah. But what happens afterwards? He wants him to regret the mitzvah. He wants him to regret it. That was Avraham's nisayon, because what happens when you regret the mitzvah? What happens when you regret the mitzvah?
You lose it.
You lose the mitzvah. So comes the Torah and tells us, don't think, because over here we're going to think that since Sarah's soul departed her, that she passed away prematurely. So the Torah reiterates, Vayuch Chayei Sarah 100 shana ו20 shana ו7 shanim. That really she lived the exact amount of time that she was supposed to live. That's why the Torah reiterates the years of Sarah. You might have thought that Sarah died prematurely and she wasn't really a tzedekah. No, she lived every day of her life. It says, Tzadikim mechayim et yemehem. You know what that means? The tzadikim, they give life to their days. They infuse their days with life. Somebody asks you, how old are you? What is another way of asking you, how many days have passed? Reshaim Yamehem, what it says by Yamehem Mechayem. By the Rasha, you know what gives him life? His days. What's the difference between the Rasha, the evil person, and the Tzaddik? The Tzaddik gives his life, the day's life. By the Rasha, the days give him life. Why? Because it's just another day. He's living another day. His life is passing him by. The Tzaddikim, they infuse their days with life. V'Avraham Zaken, Baba Yamim. Was in Baba Yamim, he brought all his days with him. When Avraham Avinu went to Shamayim, every single day was accounted for. Like the story I told you many times about the Gaon Mivilna. The Gaon Mivilna was a very big scholar. And at the end of his day, every year before Rosh Hashanah, what did he do? He made a calculation. How much time did I do Bitul Torah? So he came out with a calculation of how much? 3 minutes. This year, I spent 3 minutes of not learning Torah. So you're going to go, wow, 3 minutes, the guy didn't learn Torah. The rabbi spent, 3 minutes, maybe he spoke to somebody. Who cares how long you didn't learn Torah for? The fact that you're so in charge of your life that at the end of 365 days you're able to make a calculation that you only wasted 3 minutes, that's tzadikim mechayim et yemehem. That's the righteous give life to their days. Because they're in control of the time. They give life to their days. So over here we might think that Sarah lived prematurely. No. Comes the Torah and says, I'm going to tell you her days in detail. 100 shana, ו20 shana, ו7 shana, Shnei Chayei Sarah. She lived exactly what she was supposed to live.
Shnei Chayei Sarah?
It's a question why it says Shnei Chayei Sarah, but we're not going to deal with that today. So, and it says, the Mefarshim say that really on that day that was Akedat Yitzchak, that was meant to be the last day of Sarah in the world. The last day of Sarah was the day of Akedat Yitzchak. And the reason that Parcha Nishmata is because she was told all at once. But that's just a side note. And really, the Yetzer Hara, the Torah is teaching us an idea of perception, an outlook. You know, Rabbi Akiva says, and the Gemara comes to Rabbi Akiva and says, Yesh mamash la'avodah zarah. Really, avodah zarah has power. Idol worship has power. Avodah zarah has power. How could that be? Does avodah zarah really have power?
I don't know.
Does avodah zarah really have power? No. So how can Rabbi Akiva come and tell us that avodah zarah has power? So Rabbi Akiva says, you know what the Yetzer Hara does? God forbid a person's sick. And in Shamayim, there's such an idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says there's a ketz, there's a time. Everything has a time. Yisurim ne'emanim. You know what it means, Yisurim ne'emanim? Hardships to a person, when a person, God forbid, is sick, when a person is going to trouble, there's a timeline on those things. And on the exact date that those things are supposed to end, the Yetzer Hara puts in your head and he goes, oh, you know what? Why don't you go to the doctor? Why don't you go to the Buddhist temple? Why don't you go to that healer? Why don't you go to that place? Why? Because the Yetzer Hara knows in Shamayim that they said today the problem is going to be over. So when you go to wherever you're going to go to, you're going to say, oh, you know what I fixed? Oh, I found the right doctor. I found the right Buddhist. I found the right this. I was on the right site. So the problem was fixed today. So who are you going to say the problem was for? It wasn't. It was an idol. An idol is not just avodah zarah. I say this many times. You know what the wording of avodah zarah means? What does it mean to have avodah zarah? Something that takes you away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avodah zarah is something that makes your mind occupied with something else than Hashem. That's avodah zarah. When something occupies you other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's avodah zarah. When it says that tzaddikim mechayim et yamehem, it's because the esek of the tzaddikim is constantly to be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why in the Shulchan Aruch it says, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. The first halacha in Shulchan Aruch says, the way of the tzaddikim is Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. That Hashem is in front of me always. Because there's a constant connection between my esek, my work is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything else is just to help that. That's tzaddikim mechayim et yamehem. And that's what Sarah was involved. Sarah got to live out her days because every one of her second was dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, what was she doing? And this is the point that I want to lead into. What was Sarah doing? What was it that every second that Sarah gave up her life to do? It says, Avraham megayer et ha'anashim, v'Sarah megayeret et ha'anashim. Avraham would bring the man under Kanfei Shechina, and Sarah would do it to the women. That was their job. Their job was to show the world to do Ratzon Hashem. Now, more than the fact that tzaddikim mechayim et yamehem, they give life to others. How does a person give life to others? What did Chava do? She brought death to the world. Chava brought death to the world. She gave Adam Rishon to eat from the tree. Until Adam Rishon ate from the tree, there was no such thing as death. She caused death to the world. How do you fix causing death to the world? You have to bring life to the world. How does a person bring life to the world?
To Torah.
Oh, to bringing somebody tachat kanfei Shechina. When I bring a Jew closer, when I bring a Jew and I show him the light of Torah, I bring him closer. I bring him, I show him what's Shabbat. That's bringing life to the world. That's tzaddikim mechayim et yamehem. You know, Mashiach is not going to come until every Jew does tshuva.
Uh-huh.
Every single Jew has to do tshuva. The whole purpose, the Arizal says that the whole purpose of Galut is what? Is leotzi yakar mitoch hazolel. You know what that means? That a person, the whole purpose of Galut is leval idach mimeno nidach. Leval idach mimeno nidach means that a person, we have to understand something. Mashiach is not coming until every single Jew does tshuva.
Is that possible?
Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not giving up on even one Jew. So what are we going to say? Is that possible?
He's coming in the year 6000 then.
Looks like.
It's because of that attitude that we're not going to have people.
No, because he won't let one Jew go. So if everyone's continuously making tshuva,
it's not that everybody's continuously making tshuva. The worst attitude of a Jew is that when we see somebody else and we say, that guy, it's not for him. How many people have said that? You see a Jew, he's far off, say, that guy, he'll never do tshuva. If that guy doesn't do tshuva, Mashiach is not coming. The biggest chesed that you can do is to bring somebody under to confess Shekhinah. The biggest chesed that a Jew can do is to save somebody spiritually. And that's what Avraham and Sarah were doing. They were going around to the world of... Imagine if you lived in the time of Avraham and Sarah. People were pagans. People worshipped idolatry. Much worse than today. To some extent, they were much worse today. To some extent, we're much worse today. And Avraham and Sarah didn't give up. They went to every single person and they made every single person a believer. You know when you do something that makes you happy? You want everybody to do it. So I was thinking today, why is it that we don't believe somebody else can do tshuva? Because we haven't started doing the chesed with ourselves. What does that mean, we haven't started doing the chesed with ourselves? We ourselves don't really believe that we can really connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you don't believe that you can really connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or when you're unhappy in your service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's very hard for you to bring somebody else. Because we know that when somebody is happy in something, he always wants to get joiners. Think about it. The whole purpose that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in Galut is leval idach mimeno nidach. Chesed, when we're talking about chesed, that's the building point of that. Because you have to sacrifice to bring somebody else. When Eliezer went down to find a wife for Yitzchak, how did he test her? Look at what the Midrash says. How did he test her? Vaya ne'ara asher omar alea tina kadech ve'eshte ואמרה שתה וגם גמליך אשקה אותה הוכחת לעבדיך ליצחק ובא עדה כי עשית חסד עם אדוני. Why do you tell, we say אישה יראת השם, היא תתעלל. A woman that has a fear of God, that's the woman of valor. That's the kind of wife you're looking for. So, in the first instance, when the Torah is talking to us about Shidduchim, what does it do? It tells us about Eliezer, Eved Avraham, and the prayer of Eliezer, Eved Avraham, that the Torah repeats the whole scenario. That the Torah says that Chavivat Tfilah Shel Avadim, that the prayer of the servant is so praiseworthy that the Torah repeats it. What does Eliezer test her with? Chesed. But you want an Isha Yirat Hashem. Why are you testing her with chesed? Why is it that that's going to prove to her whether she's going to be a good wife or not a good wife? If she can do chesed or not? I need a woman that's going to be Yirat Hashem. When you pray Shmoneh Esrei, what do you say? V'zocher Chazdei Avot. Every morning, every afternoon, every Arvit, you say V'zocher Chazdei Avot, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers the chesed of the Avot. What's the chesed of the Avot? What is it that the chesed of the Avot that does that we tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu 3,000 years later, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to remember this chesed of Avot, and because of this chesed of Avot, please answer my own tefillot. What is it, the chesed of the Avot? What did Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov do that was such a chesed that's going to be long-lasting?
It brought people back to Torah.
You know, the Brisker Rav once said a story. He said once, and he said this story I think a few times, that once there was a man told his son, listen, your brother's getting married. I'm going to send you money, bring you and your brother, and all the expenses are on me. Whatever you spend is on me. So when the day of the wedding comes, I look good in front of the in-laws. I want to make sure I look good. So the brother went, he bought his family beautiful clothing, he bought everything he needed to do, and the day of the wedding comes, he looks great, his family looks great. Oh, I forgot my brother. They come to the train station, he calls up his brother, let's go quickly, we have a wedding to go to. What do you mean we have a wedding? Just gather with the way you look, bring whatever you have, let's go, the wedding's going, we have to go, we have to get there. He grabs his brother, they get to the train station, the in-laws are there, everybody's there, the whole family's there. It's the big moment where you're going to meet the rest of the family. The first brother comes down with his family, beautiful, everybody's dressed very nicely, wow, it looks a lot of honor to the father. And then all of a sudden there's somebody that's coming, and he's raggedy clothes, he just got in, they called him last minute. So the in-laws, they turn to the father, go, who's this? He goes, yeah, that's my second son. What an embarrassment to the father. V'zocher chazdei avot means Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, v'Leah, they never left anybody behind. They never left anybody behind. That's what we tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remember the chesed that they did with the world? Remember that for me, because they didn't leave anybody behind. They brought everybody tachat kanfei Shechina. The whole purpose of this galut, Rav Tzadok HaKohen says, I want you to know that the whole purpose of the galut is leval idach mimcha nidach. Every single Jew has to do tshuva. There's no such thing as leaving somebody behind. That's v'zocher chazdei avot. That's how Sarah fixed the chet of Chava. Chava caused death to the world. Sarah caused life to the world. How do you cause life to the world? You give a person life. A Rasha, we say this many times. A Rasha, Rashayim, afilu b'chayehem metim. Tzadikim, afilu b'mitatam, nikraim chayim. Because when a person's connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he gives his life. He gives life to his days. When a person's away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yamav mechayim. His days give him life. It says, the Yalkut Shimoni says, B'zman shebeit HaMikdash kayam, mizbeach mechaper. At the time that the Beit HaMikdash was built, a person did a sin, and what gave him atonement? You brought a korban. You brought a sacrifice. You brought a sacrifice. That's it. You did tshuva. Now you don't have a sin. Achshav shenichrav Beit HaMikdash, says Yalkut Shimoni, what's mechaper? What's going to cause you kapara? Shulchano shel Adam, a person's table. Shulchano shel Adam, a person's table. Your table at your house. You have guests. That's what's mechaper. What's the idea of the table of a person? How is it that the table acts like a mizbach that's mechaper avonot? Think about it. The time that the Beit comes, the Yalkut Shimon says, at the time that the Beit HaMikdash was kayam, mizbech mechaper. Now that you don't have a Beit HaMikdash, shulchano shel Adam mechaper. So think about it. You invite a person over for Shabbat. You invite a person over for Purim. You invite a person over for Pesach. You invite a person to a shiur. There's food in the shiur. The idea of Shulchano Shel Adam Mechaper is obviously an idea of chesed. Because inviting somebody is chesed. When you invite somebody to your home, it's chesed. When you invite somebody to taste Shabbat, that's chesed. The Yalkut Shimoni is hinting to us a point here. How am I going to be Mechaper Avon? How am I going to bring about Mashiach? How am I going to make the Kiseh of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalem? By the way, it says that En Kiseh Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalem, Kolota, which nation is alive?
Amalek.
Amalek. And we said many times, what's the gematria of Amalek?
Safek.
Amalek equals what?
Safek.
Dua, what's Ain? Mem? Lamed? Kuf. 100. What do you have together? Nu? Dollar? Good job. So it's the same gematria as safek. So I said many times, and this I think this theme goes many ways. The safek is not only a safek in emunah that you have to take away. Is not only a safek in a person's in another, whether we have bitachon or we don't have bitachon. The safek is when we look at another Jew, do we really believe that that Jew can do tshuva? I told once one of my customers walked into my store, and I told her, there was a certain situation, somebody in their family, and she said, that guy will never do tshuva. He goes, no, he's so far off, he'll never come back. I yelled at her. I said, how can you say that? How can you say a Jew will never do tshuva? She goes, no, I know. I said, how can you say that? Look what Rav Tzadok HaKohen said. If that guy doesn't do tshuva, Mashiach is not coming. Leval idach mimeno nidach. Avraham and Sarah understood that. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu dedicates the life of Sarah. He doesn't call it, when Sarah passes away, he doesn't call it death, he calls it life. Because the life, what Sarah did was life. What disturbs you there, Baba?
Sarah was not bringing any Jews back.
She was like nothing.
In Sarah is doing the same thing that when you bring back a Jew.
She was not bringing back any Jews.
When Sarah was doing was bringing people tachat kanfei Shechina. At that time, what?
They were not Jewish. They were never Jewish. They were never be Jewish.
That's not true. Whoever converted at the time of Abraham was part of was. When you remind what Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim means what? So what are we learning from the story of Sarah? What does it mean Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim? What do you mean the acknowledge? Some people say that we said this last week. Some people say that Abraham wasn't even publicizing monotheism. He was just showing people how to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the world. So Sarah was bringing back Gerim. Okay, they weren't Jews back then, but the idea is that we're bringing back people to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In your field of the work, it means bring back your brother. We don't have to worry about anybody else. We have to worry about our brothers. It says that Eliyahu Navi was once in the marketplace, and they came and they asked Eliyahu Navi, who here has Chelek L'Olam Haba? So the Gemara says that the Achi ve'Achi, until they were talking, a few jokers came to the marketplace. What jokers? What did they do? Make people laugh. So they started to make people laugh. So Eliyahu Navi said to the Tana, he goes, you see those guys that are making everybody laugh, those jokers? They're Bnei Olam Haba. These people are the sons of Olam Haba. So what are you going to say? Okay, the simple pshat of the Gemara is what?
Be a joker.
They made people happy. You make somebody happy, it's a mitzvah. You have chelek l'olam haba. So one of the commentators says, no, that wasn't the thing. You know what these people that the Gemara calls batchanim, you know what they were doing? What were they doing? A guy was coming down. He's. What does it mean when a person's down? He forgets about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says that they infused them with emunah. That's what it means that they brought laughter to their thing. A guy was coming with a problem. The jokers made him laugh. What does it mean that they made him laugh? It's like the Sefer Hasidim says that when he saw once a person with a panim of Tisha B'Av. You know what they say? Sometimes you look at a guy and goes, what do you look like Tisha B'Av today? So the guy says to him, Im da'agatcha la'olam hazeh, yasir Hashem da'aga milibcha. V'im da'agatcha la'olam haba, yachpil Hashem da'agatecha. If your worry is about this world, may Hashem remove the worry. But if your worry is about the world to come, may Hashem double your worry. These jokers, what they were doing is they were reminding a person, whatever problems you have, there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's why they're Bnei Olam Haba. What were they doing? They were doing a chesed. They were bringing back a person back to the perception, my friend, there's a reason why you're here. To worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a creator to the world. And you're supposed to play a role. That's v'zocher chasdei avot. And even though Sarah and Avraham were doing it with people that were, according to Baba, were not Jews, we have to do it with our brethren. And in order to be able to do it with our brothers, we have to be able to do it with ourselves. You know how they say that tzedakah starts at home? Chesed also starts with yourself. And in this area, chesed has to start with yourself. Because if you believe that you could be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you can believe anybody else could be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you don't really believe that you could be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can't bring anybody else. You know, one of the problems with reading stories of Gdolei Adorot, that you read, that you have beautiful stories, nobody ever writes the story how they got there. Nobody ever writes the toil and the challenges that tzaddikim have. They only write the end result. When you go to our school, you read about the big Gadol, who he was. They only tell you the miracles. They tell you how much Torah he knew. Nobody ever says the beginning of their life, what they struggled and all their struggles and how they got to where they got.
It's called the making of the Gadol, but they ban the book.
Because they missed the point. A person has to believe in himself. When you believe that you can be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll believe that somebody else can be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remember, and I think that's what Rav Tzadok is telling us, and that's what the Arizal brings down, that the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in Galut is leval idach mimeno nidach. In the same way that a father is not going to give up on a son, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to give up on one child. So until we really believe that every single Jew has to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mashiach is not coming. Chava caused death to the world, Sarah caused life to the world. She brought people tachat kanfei Shechina. She dedicated her life to bring people tachat kanfei Shechina. Like the Yalkut Shimoni says, at the time of the Beit HaMikdash was Kayam, Mizbeach mechaper. Now Shulchano shel Adam mechaper. The chesed that we do with others, when we bring them into our home, and we show them that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world, we show them who they are, we show them their role, we have patience with them, we hear their problems, and we give them a solution, we give them a listening ear. We put on tefillin on a person. We help a person, we tell him, how can you not keep Shabbat? Look what a beautiful thing Shabbat is. You invite him over for a Shabbat. That's what Avraham and Chava and Sarah did. When a person sat down under the Ilan of Avraham, he made him make Birkat HaMazon. He brought him back to Kadosh Baruch Hu. He made him realize that there's a God in the world. That's Chayei Sarah. Somebody who lives a life like that, even in their passing, the Torah calls it a life. Why does it say B'Kiryat Arba that she passed away Dafka in Kiryat Arba? Because a person is made up of 4 Yesodot. What are the 4 Yesodot that we're made up of? Esh, Maim, Afar, Ruach. Those 4 physical Yesodot, Sarah took and she elevated them to be spiritual. So even in the place that she passed away, which is Kiryat Arba, the Torah is hinting to us that look at this life of this tzedekah. The physical she elevated to the spiritual. When a person lives a life where his constant esek, his dealings are constantly a Kadosh Baruch Hu, even in your passing, the Torah will call it a life. That's what it says Chayei Sarah. And that's why it emphasizes every single year that Sarah lived. Because when every second of your life is dedicated to Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're like a tinok shelo chata. You're like tinokot shel bet rabban shelo chatu. Like the babies that go to the school that don't know the taste of the sin, that was Sarah's life. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu emphasized that in the Torah, shows you, Vayu Chayei Sarah 100 shana, ve-20 shana, ve-7 shanim, every single year of her life was counted because every single second she was dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I think that's the lesson that we have to take out. That it's very easy sometimes to look at a Jew that's very far and say, that guy will never do it. But if we say that guy will never do it, Mashiach will never come. We have to change our perception. We have to change our psyche. And we have to really believe that every single guy will do it. Every single Jew will come back. And that's the only way to bring about Mashiach.